Below is part 1, explained in approximately 1,000 words. Fast-paced, simple English, clean, emotional. And fully safe for YouTube monetization. Only story. No repetition. No explicit content. Part 1. Extended 1,000 words. Fast-paced, clean story. The night in northern Montana was colder than anyone expected. The small town had already gone quiet, and most people were inside their warm homes long before the snowstorm grew heavy. Emma stood outside the diner where she worked, holding her coat tight and trying not to panic. The lights inside the diner had already been turned off, the doors locked, and the parking lot was empty. Her old car sat in silence with its hood open. But she already knew the truth. Nothing inside. Her engine was going to magically fix itself. Her phone battery had died hours earlier. She had promised her sister she would be home before 11, but midnight was close. She tried to stay calm, but the wind was harsh and the roads looked dangerous. Every few minutes, a truck or snowplow passed far away on the main road, but no cars came near the diner. The longer she waited, the more she felt the cold sink into her bones. Just when she decided she might walk home, a pair of headlights cut through the snow. A black pickup truck slowly turned into the parking lot. Emma's heart jumped. In a small town, strangers were rare and late-night visitors were even more unusual. She stayed still, watching carefully. The truck stopped a few feet away and the window rolled down. A man leaned toward the open window. He looked about her age, maybe early 30s, with tired eyes and a calm voice. "Car trouble?" Emma nodded once. Her voice felt stuck in her throat from the cold. "I'm not here to bother you," he said quickly, as if he understood her fear. "I just saw your hood open." She stepped closer, but still kept a little distance. "It won't start. I think the battery's gone." He glanced at her shivering hands. "You shouldn't stand out here. It's too cold. Can I give you a ride home?" Emma hesitated. It was the kind of moment every woman thinks about whether to trust a stranger or not. But the snow was falling harder, her fingers were numb, and no one else was coming. She tried to read his face. His voice didn't sound pushy or strange. He looked unsure, almost as nervous as she felt. "What's your name?" she asked, trying to sound brave. "Ethan," he answered. "I live a few miles from here. Everybody knows everybody in this town, so I promise I'm not someone you need to worry about." He offered a small smile. Not a flirtatious one, just a gentle one to make her feel safe. Emma finally nodded. "Okay." He unlocked the door and she slowly climbed in. The warmth of the truck felt like heaven after that freezing wind. She wrapped her arms around herself and breathed out a shaky breath. But when she expected the truck to start moving, it didn't. Ethan's hands stayed on the wheel. He stared at the dashboard like he had forgotten how to drive. The heater hummed, filling the silence. Emma's heartbeat grew louder in her chest. Why wasn't he moving? Why didn't he start the engine? "Are you okay?" she asked quietly. He didn't answer right away. When he finally spoke, his voice sounded different, lower, weighted with something she couldn't see. "I should probably tell you the truth before I take you anywhere," he said. Emma stiffened. "What truth?" He swallowed hard. "I'm not headed home." His words settled strangely in the air, not threatening, not dangerous, but full of something painful. Emma watched him carefully. He looked like a man trying to control emotions he didn't want to show. "I wasn't planning to go home tonight," he continued. "I just needed to get away from there." Emma didn't move. She didn't know if she should ask more or jump out of the truck. Her breath fogged the glass as she stared out into the white night. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. "Look, I know how this looks. Stranger, late night, snowstorm. But if you want me to take you home, I will. You just have to tell me." Something in his voice was honest, almost fragile. "He wasn't trying to hide anything?" Emma asked softly. "Then where were you going?" Ethan let out a slow breath. "Anywhere that wasn't my house." She could hear heartbreak in that sentence. Even though he hadn't explained yet, he finally started the truck, but still didn't move. The engine rumbled quietly, warming the cabin. Emma looked at him from the corner of her eye. He wasn't scary. If anything, he looked lost. His shoulders were tense, his eyes tired, his voice shaky. This wasn't a man plotting something. This was a man escaping something. "Ethan," she said, her voice calm, "if you don't want to talk, you don't have to. But I'm not going to jump out screaming. I just need to know you're not someone I should fear." He looked at her like her words surprised him. Maybe he wasn't used to kindness from strangers. "I'm not dangerous," he said quietly. "I'm just not okay tonight." Emma understood more than she admitted out loud. Some nights were heavy, and nothing inside you wanted to be where you were supposed to be. She had her own reasons for not wanting to go home. Her heart had been hurt too many times lately. A broken engagement, judgmental family members. Nights where she felt invisible. Maybe this was one of those strange moments life throws at people to strangers, both running from their own shadows. Snow tapped gently against the windshield. The parking lot was silent. The world outside felt frozen and small. Ethan's voice dropped to a whisper. "I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. He paused, searching for words. "Tonight is my wedding anniversary." Emma's heart ached, and she didn't know why. The pain in his voice wasn't loud. It was quiet and real, the kind that makes people leave. The lights on just to avoid feeling alone. "My marriage ended a few months ago," he said. "I didn't want to sit in that house and pretend everything was normal." Emma took a slow breath. "I'm sorry." He nodded, not looking at her. The heater filled the silence again. Outside, the snowstorm continued, turning the town white and empty. Emma gently pulled the seatbelt across her chest. "It's okay if you don't want to go home. Just drive anywhere. I don't care where." Ethan finally looked at her. His eyes weren't dangerous. They were broken. "You trust me?" He asked. "Enough," she said. He put the truck in drive, and then froze again, his hands tightening on the wheel. "What if you regret getting in this truck?" He whispered. Emma turned her head toward him, her voice steady but soft. "What if I don't?" For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air inside that truck felt warmer than any heater could make it. Two strangers, not sure where they were going. Not sure why life had placed them together in a silent parking lot. Snowflakes slid down the glass like tiny falling stars. Then, very slowly, Ethan pressed his foot on the gas, and the truck rolled forward into the night. Where they were going, neither of them knew. But for the first time that evening, Emma didn't feel alone. End of part 1. If you want, I can write part 2 in 1,000 fast-paced words as well. Should I continue? Here is part 2, explained in approximately 1,000 clean, fast-paced words. No repetition, no explicit content. Simple English, emotional and safe for YouTube monetization. Only story. No extra notes. Part 2, extended 1,000 words, fast pace. Clean. The truck moved slowly through the snowy streets, the headlights cutting a narrow path through the white night. Emma watched the world blur past her window. Quiet houses, closed gas stations, dark roads covered in ice. She didn't know where they were going, but for the first time in weeks, her heartbeat wasn't full of panic. Sitting next to someone who understood sadness felt strangely comforting. Ethan didn't talk for several minutes. His jaw was tight, his shoulders tense, like every thought inside him was loud and painful. Emma didn't push him. She knew forced conversation only made broken hearts hurt more. The heater filled the silence, warming her face and hands. Finally, he spoke. "I didn't think I would see anyone tonight. I was driving with no plan. Just trying to breathe." Emma nodded. Sometimes leaving is the only thing that keeps us standing. He glanced at her, surprised she understood so quickly. "You don't seem afraid of me." "I would have been if your eyes looked different," she said. "Some people want to hurt others. You look like someone just trying to survive the night." Ethan didn't answer. His grip tightened around the steering wheel. But only because emotion was pushing through him. They drove past the last row of houses and out toward the edge of town. The streets were emptier there, the snow thicker, the lights fewer. The world looked like a blank page no one had written on yet. Emma took a slow breath and finally asked, How long were you married? 6 years, Ethan said quietly. We fought a lot near the end. Not yelling, just silence. Cold silences. The kind that make you strangers in your own home. Emma understood too well. Did she leave? Yeah, he said. She said she didn't feel anything anymore. She packed her things and moved to another town. That house became just walls. I didn't want to sit there tonight pretending the date meant nothing. Emma looked down at her hands. I'm sorry. Ethan shook his head. It's okay. People fall apart. I just didn't think it would happen to us. The truck's tires crunched over the snow as he turned down a long country road. Trees lined both sides of the street, branches heavy with winter. The road looked endless, stretching into the darkness. After a few seconds, Ethan asked quietly, "What about you? You seemed sad before you even got in my truck." Emma tried to smile, but her eyes gave her away. My fiancé ended our engagement 3 months ago, she said. Everyone wanted answers I couldn't give. My sister keeps telling me to move on, but moving on doesn't happen just because people say the words. Ethan exhaled softly. So neither of us wanted to go home. No, Emma said. Home makes the pain louder. They kept driving. The truck interior felt warm, calm, almost safe. Two strangers, both hurt, but not hiding it anymore. Ethan pulled off the main road and parked near a small overlook, a wide field covered in thick snow, stretching into the distance. The sky above them was black and full of silent stars. He turned off the engine but left the heater running. The truck lights dimmed, leaving only the glow of the dashboard and the soft shine of the moon through the windshield. I used to bring my dog here, Ethan said. He passed away last winter. This was his favorite place. Emma felt her throat tighten. You've had too many goodbyes, Ethan nodded. Someone once told me losing things makes you grateful for what you still have. But some days, it just makes you tired. Emma leaned her head back against the seat. She didn't cry, but something inside her softened. There was a different kind of intimacy between them, not romantic, not dramatic. Just two human beings finally breathing. For a while, they didn't speak. Snow kept falling in gentle waves across the open field. It was peaceful, a kind of silence that healed instead of hurt. Then Ethan turned toward her. Can I ask you something honest? Emma met his eyes. Ask when you got in my truck. Was it trust? Or did you not care what happened? The question hit deep. She didn't look away. Maybe a little of both, she admitted. I've been tired of feeling empty. Tonight felt heavy. You didn't look dangerous, just lonely. I thought sitting in the cold parking lot would hurt more than taking a chance. Ethan nodded slowly. I get it. Pain makes people do unusual things. Emma looked out the windshield again. Do you regret stopping for me? He shook his head quickly. No, you made this night feel less awful. His voice was gentle, honest. Not flirty. Not strange. Just grateful. Emma pulled the blanket around herself and let the warmth sink in. Her fingers slowly stopped trembling. Ethan shifted in his seat. Do you want me to take you home now? Emma's chest tightened. Home meant questions. Home meant faces filled with pity. Home meant answering things she didn't want to say out loud. Not yet, she said softly. Ethan nodded. Me neither. He started the truck again and drove farther out of town. The roads were empty, the sky was wide. And every mile made the world feel quieter. As they drove, they shared pieces of their lives. Not everything, just enough. Emma told him she used to paint but stopped after the breakup. Every color reminded me of him, she said. Ethan told her he used to bake with his ex-wife on Sundays. The house feels empty without the smell of bread, he admitted. They both laughed lightly at the same time. Not because anything was funny, but because it felt good to laugh after so many months without joy. The truck eventually reached a frozen lake. The moon reflected across the icy surface like silver glass. Ethan parked at the edge and both of them stepped outside. The cold air hit hard, but the view was worth it. Emma wrapped her coat tighter. The world was silent except for the soft wind moving across the snow. They stood side by side, not touching, just looking out at the frozen water. "It's beautiful," Emma whispered. Ethan nodded. "When I was younger, my dad used to bring me here. We'd sit for hours, not talking, just watching the water. He said peace is something people forget to look for." Emma smiled faintly. "Your dad sounds like someone who understood life." "He did," Ethan said quietly. "He passed away last year. Some days I hear his voice. Other days I can't remember it at all." Emma felt her chest ache. She didn't speak. She simply slid one hand into his, slowly, gently, giving comfort without words. Ethan let her hold his hand. No tension. No hesitation. Just connection. Snowflakes drifted down like tiny white sparks. The lake was so still, it looked like a piece of the sky had frozen on the ground. Emma leaned, her head lightly against his shoulder. He didn't move away. The moment wasn't romantic in a loud way. It was soft, calm, meaningful. "I'm glad you stopped your truck tonight," she said. Ethan closed his eyes for a second, letting the cold air wash over him. "So am I," for the first time in a long time. His voice didn't sound broken. They stayed there until their hands were cold. Until the night wind reminded them they were still human. Still breathing, still here. When they finally walked back to the truck, neither of them asked where they were going next, because for two strangers running from their pasts, the destination didn't matter. Only the company did. End of part 2 if you'd like. I can write part 3 ending in 1,000 words in the same style, emotional. Clean, fast-paced, fully safe for YouTube. Should I continue with part 3? Here is part 3 explained in approximately 1,000 fast-paced, clean words. Simple English. Emotional, no repetition. Fully safe for YouTube monetization. Only story. No extra notes. Part 3 extended 1,000 words. Fast pace, clean. The truck engine hummed softly as Ethan and Emma sat inside, their breath warm in the cold air. The frozen lake stretched in front of them, shining under the moonlight. Neither of them wanted to leave, but eventually the wind grew stronger and Ethan started the truck again. Snow dusted the windshield and the world seemed quiet, almost peaceful. They drove slowly back toward town, but not directly home. Ethan didn't turn on the radio. He didn't need noise. The silence between them felt gentle, not uncomfortable. Emma looked out at the snowy road, thinking how strange life was, how one broken night had placed her next to a stranger who somehow felt familiar. After a few minutes, she spoke. "Do you miss her?" Ethan kept his eyes on the road. "Yes, not because she left, but because I thought we would finish life together. I believed in us, even when things got hard." Emma nodded. "Sometimes love ends quietly." He breathed out a tired breath. "I kept asking myself what I did wrong. But the truth is, sometimes love ends even when nobody does anything terrible." The road curved around a long hill. Streetlights glowed softly in the distance. Emma listened to the quiet rumble of the engine and felt the weight inside her chest lighten little by little. "What about you?" Ethan asked. "Why did your engagement end?" Emma's voice was softer than before. "We wanted different futures." He wanted a bigger city, a faster life, a house full of people. "I wanted something calm. I wanted a slow life where love wasn't rushed." Ethan glanced at her. "So he left?" "Yes," she said. "He said I was holding him back. I thought I was being supportive. He saw it as limitation." Ethan shook his head. "That doesn't sound like your fault." Emma smiled sadly. "Doesn't matter. People leave when their hearts decide to go. You can't stop them." The truck reached the edge of town again. Warm lights filled a few windows and smoke drifted from chimneys. The world looked softer from inside the truck, like they were outside of real life. Watching it through glass, Ethan didn't know where to drive next, but Emma didn't mind. Being with him felt easier than being alone. The snowflakes tapped against the windows, and the heater made their cheeks warm and red. Finally, Ethan parked beside a small park with wooden benches covered in snow. He turned off the engine but left the heater running. The sky above them was clear and stars looked like silver dots across the black night. Emma pulled her legs up onto the seat and wrapped the blanket around her again. "Do you think people heal?" she asked. Eventually, Ethan said, "Maybe not fast. Maybe not the way we expect. But sitting at home alone didn't help. Tonight feels different." Emma watched him for a moment. He looked tired but safer than before. He wasn't a stranger anymore. He was someone who understood pain without needing long explanations. Ethan rubbed his hands together, thinking, "I kept asking myself if I failed. If I wasn't enough, you were enough," Emma said firmly. "Sometimes love just changes shape." He turned to look at her. Her eyes were warm, not judging, not pitying, just understanding. That was the hardest kind of comfort to receive, because it made the truth easier to carry. Snow gathered along the edges of the windshield, slowly creeping upward. The park was silent except for the soft wind moving through the trees. Emma leaned back against the seat. "Can I ask you something? And be honest, of course. When you saw me standing at the diner, what made you stop?" Ethan thought about it. "I've driven past stranded cars before, but something about you looked familiar. Not your face, just your sadness. You looked like someone who needed warmth. And I guess I did too." Emma didn't know what to say, so she just let the words sit between them. Kindness from a stranger is sometimes the most powerful kind. The truck windows began to fog gently. Ethan reached out and wiped a small circle clear so they could see the sky. The stars shimmered faintly, and Emma breathed in deep. Feeling calm for the first time all night? "I don't know what happens tomorrow," Ethan said. "I don't know if anything gets better. But tonight didn't feel like a mistake." Emma nodded. "Some nights change everything." He glanced at her again, this time with something new in his eyes, not romance, not longing, just hope. A soft, careful hope that didn't expect anything in return. Ethan sighed. "You know what scares me? Going home and feeling that silence again." Emma looked down at her hands. "Then don't rush home. We can drive a little longer." He smiled, not a big smile, just enough to warm the space between them. Without asking, he reached into the back seat and pulled out a thermos. "I always pack hot chocolate this time of year," he said. "Habit." He poured some into a small cup and handed it to her. The cup warmed her palms instantly. She took a sip and closed her eyes. It tasted sweet and familiar, like childhood winters. Ethan quietly poured himself a cup and leaned back in his seat. They sat together, sharing the hot chocolate while the snow kept falling. For a long time, neither spoke. They didn't need to. After a few minutes, Emma placed her cup down and turned toward him. "Ethan," she said softly, "I don't know where life takes either of us, but I'm glad you didn't leave me in that parking lot." He nodded. "You made tonight feel less lonely." And then something happened, simple, gentle, and completely innocent. Emma leaned her head on his shoulder again. Ethan didn't move. He just breathed slowly, like the weight on his chest was finally lifting. They stayed like that until the windows fogged completely and the snow formed a white blanket over the hood of the truck. The world outside was frozen, but inside the truck felt warm, safe, and alive. When Emma finally spoke, her voice was almost a whisper. "Do you think people can start over, even after everything?" Ethan answered without hesitation. "Yes, nobody heals all at once. But maybe the hardest part is believing we deserve to start." Emma closed her eyes and nodded. The silence between them felt full, not empty. After a while, Ethan started the truck again. They didn't decide on a destination. They drove slowly through the quiet town, past the frozen lake, past the snowy fields, past the empty roads. The night kept going, gentle and calm. Two strangers who had nothing in common except broken hearts. Two people who didn't need promises or plans. They didn't hold hands or make dramatic speeches. They didn't pretend their pain was gone. They simply sat together, letting the night carry them forward. Sometimes healing doesn't come from loud moments. Sometimes it comes from the simple comfort of being understood. When morning finally came, the sky turned pale blue, and the snow glowed like silver. Ethan pulled up in front of Emma's sister's house. She looked at the door, then at him. "Will I see you again?" she asked, not demanding, just hopeful. Ethan smiled softly. "If you want to." She nodded. "I do." Before getting out, she leaned forward and pressed her forehead to his just a gentle touch, warm and honest. "Thank you for tonight," she whispered. He closed his eyes for a second. "Thank you for not letting me be alone." Emma stepped out into the snow, wrapped her coat tight, and walked toward the house. She turned back one more time. Ethan was still watching her, not rushing to leave. She smiled, he smiled back. Then she opened the door, and the house lights spilled into the snow. Ethan drove away slowly, not lost anymore, not running. Just moving forward. Sometimes love doesn't start with fireworks or promises. Sometimes it begins quietly, in a stranger's truck. On a cold night when two hearts finally found someone who understood. The end.